So this document by NATO was published in 2020. Let's talk about psychological warfare on the internet and how it's basically surpassed, right? Like I always think about the internet and I'm like, man, I bet you the elite of 70, 80, 100 years ago were like, they couldn't even, this is a wet dream, right? For propagandists to think this type of thing is going to be in everybody's hands 24/7. Everybody's going to be online looking at information nonstop. Like, as a propagandist, you're like jumping for joy, you know, because you can just basically control the masses at will. So this last paragraph is really what I want to talk about, but we're going to read the whole thing. In the digital realm, what allows the digital industries and their customers to distinguish individuals in the crowd, to refine personalization and behavioral analysis, are emotions. Every social media platform, every website is designed to be addictive and to trigger some emotional bursts, trapping the brain in a cycle of posts. And we know this. I mean, the algorithm, everybody is, what it shows you is based on what you're clicking on and what you're looking at. Not even what you're clicking on, what you're looking at for longer than, I don't know how they determine it, but like if you look at something for a second or two, they will give you more of that shit because they're like, oh, you paused on that post. Uh-oh, we're going to give you more of that. The speed, emotional intensity, and echo chamber qualities of social media content cause those exposed to it to experience more extreme reactions. It's kind of just like upping the ante, right? Social media is particularly well suited to worsening political and social polarization because of their ability to disseminate violent images and scary rumors very quickly and intensely. As we saw with this assassination, all this stuff, it spread like wildfire, and you couldn't not see it if you got on X for when it happened. You know, it was just like nonstop people talking about it. And then now we're seeing the fallout of reactions of everybody, and now you can't get away from that because everybody's talking about that. It's the media cycle for, you know, it's been the media cycle for the last 3 days. The more the anger spreads, the more internet users are susceptible to becoming a troll. At the political and strategic level, it would be wrong to underestimate the impact of emotions. Dominique Moisey showed in his book, The Geopolitics of Emotions, how emotions, hope, fear, and humiliation were shaping the world and international relations with the echo chamber effect of the social media. For example, it seems important to integrate into theoretical studies on terrorist phenomena the role of emotions leading to a violent and/or a terrorist path. By limiting cognitive abilities, emotions also play a role in decision-making, performance, and overall well-being. And it's impossible to stop people from experiencing them. In the face of violence, the very first obstacle you will have to face will not be your abuser, but your own reactions. And that's true. I think that's what we're dealing with right now. And if you have seen what anybody has been saying about this, it's an attempt to control the reaction, right? This happened, and then right after, everybody's instantly trying to control the reaction to this. How does everybody feel about it? What are we going to do about it? And I think we ultimately have to think about what exactly are they kind of shuffling us towards, if anything at all. And it seems very much so that they want us to point the finger at the left and crush the opposition and all this stuff. But I think there's actually a lot more going on mentally than meets the eye, and than just that. It's not just, oh, crush the left. I think there's also an affirmation of a new right as well. So this image, you know, this is Charlie several moments before his ultimate demise. And I always thought it was so interesting, his shirt, he's wearing freedom, right? And like the way he's operating, the way he's acting, what he's doing there. There's a lot of symbolism in it. I feel like that's just, it's palpable. So the instant first thing was, if you've seen any of the clips online, he had recently been starting to question and talk about the Israel lobby and Israel and what they're doing in the Epstein case, right? He's been talking about that quite a bit, which we know the Trump administration has been trying hard to clamp down on. They even tried to reach out to Joe Rogan to try and quell any of the viewers, because they know there's overlap there with Trump supporters and Joe Rogan viewers. And I think that talking about Epstein, talking about Israel, talking about these topics, I don't think they liked. I don't think they wanted him to go down that path. He's the vector with which the American youth can approach conservative politics. He is like the de facto right-wing guy that they pushed out there to the forefront to say, okay, go and corral the youth to be on our side. One of the elements of that side was Zionism, was support for Israel. Because his support for Israel was waning, they wanted to make an example out of him. A lot of his donors, a lot of the people who bankrolled him were Jewish Zionists. And I think there was an element of like, are you really going to do this after how much we've done for you? We can't believe, like, you're biting the hand that feeds you. So that was like an obvious one where it's like, you think about that, it's like, okay. But the second one is this shirt. The shirt here, freedom. And I feel like shooting him in the throat it's symbolic, right? It's symbolic of free speech, freedom, all this kind of like the old American way that we used to have in our minds, this concept that a lot of people on the alt-right and in farther right circles would call him like a cuck for, like Charlie Cuck. A lot of people didn't like him. A lot of people did not like him. I was not even a big fan of Charlie. I didn't like his stance on Israel. I didn't like his, this kind of gatekeeping of American right-wing politics. I didn't like that either. And it seems like the shooting of him in the throat with the freedom shirt on is like in the name turning point. It quite literally is a turning point. We're done with that. We're done with that kind of libertarian laissez-faire type mentality of America. Now we're going to move into something else. And as you've seen, we talked about, which we're going to go into more depth, I think, at a later date, the neo-reactionary movement, which was basically started by Curtis Yarvin and Nick Land. And Curtis Yarvin and Nick Land helped Peter Thiel, and Peter Thiel basically has put up J.D. Vance as vice president. And Peter Thiel also paid a lot of money to the neo-reactionary movement and their whole dark enlightenment type idea. If you know anything about it, it's non-democratic, it's anti-egalitarian, it's racialist, it's monopolistic. And all this is kind of feeding into, I believe, is to a more general ideology about how we're going to view the country from now on, how we're going to view right-wing politics. It's, I think, to quite literally funnel people from the normie kind of, the way Donald Trump, maybe a lot of people saw him. A lot of the Turning Point people might have saw him. Normie, middle of the road conservatism. We're going to funnel them into something more extreme, something more solid, something more pointed. And we're seeing it because the left has been acting like that for years. For 10, 15, 20 years, they've been acting crazy, pointed. They're always thinking about what benefits us. They don't care about any sort of unity or any sort of... We've seen this for years with the vast majority of these, like George Floyd moments. Any shooting that has happened, they would instantly be out there pushing for gun control. They would always be banding together. They would never disagree with each other. And now I think we're going to start to see, and we have, right-wing people do that. And they're not going to do it in this sloppy kind of, this blob of the unwashed masses who just, try and go and get you fired from your job because you said something moderately, right of center. And I'm going to call up, and I'm going to be a hysterical HR woman, and I'm going to call up your business to get you fired. Hysterical cat lady. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be on an industrial scale. We're going to do a website. We're going to get organized with this. It's not just some crazy weirdo liberal whack job cat moms. It's like we're getting industrial with this shit, boys. The right wing's getting industrial with the tactics that the left had been using in kind of a sloppy, kind of here and there type way. So it's like it's funneling people from kind of normie conservosphere into, I think, a harsher right wing. And he's leaving a vacuum in that spot of where somebody, where he corralled a lot of the youth at the college campuses. And his ideas, a lot of people on the right thought they weren't right wing enough. Well, he's gone, but now who's going to take that spot? Who's going to be the person who is going to be the next Charlie Kirk? And they're almost certainly going to be more right-wing than he was. So when you think about the farther right, for the alt-right pushing farther right, the American right wing, what is that going to look like? What is the concept of that going to look like? And when I said the neo-reactionary dark enlightenment movement, that's kind of the concept I feel like they're going with. The tech bros, it's going to be spearheaded by the tech people like Peter Thiel. And it's going to be, like I said, anti-egalitarian. It's going to be racialist. It's going to be monopolistic. And people are going to feel vindicated and right to be harsh American right-wingers. And it's going to funnel this power into people who are more like that. kind of the fascistic kind of leader. And I always had to hesitate, and I got to think, man, what is that going to do? Where's that going to go? Who's going to be ruling that? Who's going to be running that? And I think them shooting him when he's starting to question Israel is interesting, because I would guess that the Dark Enlightenment neo-reactionary movement would be maybe not outright pro-Zionist, but it's indifferent to Zionism. And a lot of the members are Jewish. Curtis Yarvin being the main one who coined the term. No, I'm sorry, he didn't coin the term. He started the movement, but Nick Land coined the term. And Nick Land is a weirdo. You got to look into him. He spent a lot of time in China. And when I think about how this appears to be going, I wonder if there's any idea of, well, I want to model it after China. Because I think Nick Land even said that he believes in this idea of accelerationism, which is basically pushing not even just capitalism, because like late stage capitalism to its end, to its complete conclusion and a collapse, to allow for the technocracy and the tech bros to basically come out of the ashes. Not even just that, but I also think you can do it in cultural and social terms as well. Edging people further into ideology that they might not have been willing to be part of prior to an event like this. And Nick Land likes Chinese communism. He thinks that they're an excellent accelerationist society. And what they have over there is you basically have two types of people. You have like the Communist Party, which is like a 10% of the CCP. Well, the CCP, the people actually running it, are way less than that. But like you have 10% of people who are kind of following and part of this kind of movement, and then you have everybody else, the villagers, all the people that they reap the money and the resources from, to funnel them into their cities. And I wonder how much of this is being modeled after, where we're going to start having more extreme kind of right wing. They're going to funnel more of their energy and their time to this solidified block. And therefore, we're going to try and get this accelerationism to its end, which would result in the tech ruling class running society over all of us, the hobbits. The symbolism of 9/11 is another one. It's an interesting part of it. 9/11 was a pessimistic, it was an L, okay? Let's just put it that way. It was an L for America. And it gave everybody a pessimistic view of the future, especially with how many disastrous reactions we had to it going into the Middle East. So much stuff, the security state, so many bad ideas came out of 9/11 that are just tampering down on us, right? The American people. When you reflect on like World War II was a victory. And this is something that Peter Thiel talks about in his book, is that people for so long had a indefinite optimistic view of the future. And I believe it was based on that, the imagery, the mythos of the victory in World War II. That's why people felt like, oh yeah, we're winners. We're always going to win, no matter what we do. But that went away, and 9/11 took its place, which gave people an indefinite pessimistic view of the future. But a lot of the generations, Gen Z, millennials to a degree, they don't feel the same way about 9/11 that our parents might. So they needed something else. We need something else here. And it's so interesting how close it is to 9/11. It's like, don't forget, never forget 9/10. And we're feeling so many of the ripples today still, like with Palantir and the surveillance state, out of 9/11, out of the myth of 9/11. And I think we're going to start to feel ripples of 9/10 for at least the rest of this administration. It had to happen now. It had to happen in the beginning of his administration, where we needed to kill a high ranking conservative figure like this. Because now this is going to give them a justification and the pretext to absolutely abolish and destroy left-wing progressivism, which, hey, I'm not even necessarily opposed to. I'm not even necessarily opposed to getting rid of that ideology. That ideology is one of death. It's one of chaos. It is not good. I'm not saying that. But you have to think, well, what are people going to run to? Where are they going to put all their faith and their energy and time and attention into? They're going to put them into the Dark Enlightenment neo-reactionary movement. We got to get more people on board with this thing. And it's so weird because this guy, Charlie Kirk wasn't even that radical. He wasn't even that. He was just a regular middle of the road conservative nowadays. Charlie Cook, we used to call him. The alt-right used to call him that, because he was gatekeeping a lot of the ideas that we wanted to proliferate, alt-right ideas, which I'm not so sure that those ideas are very organic, but that's a topic for another day. But now he's gone, and it leaves a vacuum, and it leaves somebody to fill it. And I don't know who it's going to be, but it's shifted everybody over. They have a reaction. Just like after 9/11, we had a reaction, and it was the wrong move. Now we're going to have a reaction to this, and it will, if we go by our emotions, as we saw with the NATO document, it's probably going to be the wrong move too. But that's the whole point, is they're trying to control how we feel about this. How do we feel about this? And it's so weird that the guy was missing too for like 2 days. Like they grabbed some random old guy. Yeah, he's not it. I think they grabbed somebody else. He's not it. And it's almost like they got in the boardroom and like, who can we pick? Who do we got? Who can we say did it? This guy. What he do? He wrote on his bullets that catch this fascist. Yes. Yes, of course. So I don't know. It's just it was a weird day. It was a weird event, and it's most certainly going to result in changes. But we have to always be ready to think about what are those changes and where are they leading us towards? What are they leading us towards? What are they pulling us towards? It's no more of this pussy conservatism, no more free speech, no more unity, no more of this Jesus Christ. No more weak conservatism. We're done with that, which I kind of agree with to an extent, because Jesus Christ was not weak. But they're done. We're done with that. We're throwing that out the window. Now we're going to get something real. Now we're going to get something with teeth on it. And it's going to be industrial. You ready for it? You guys ready for it?